All 31 member countries of the International Energy Agency have agreed to release 60 million barrels of oil from their strategic reserves. The group says it wants to send a strong message to oil markets that there will be no shortfall in supplies as a result of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Meanwhile, Apple, Ford Motor, and Dell Technologies joined the growing list of companies retreating from Russia. Exxon said late yesterday it was halting operations at a major gas project in Russia and would make no further investments in the country following the Russian invasion. Joining us now, Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts. She's a member of the Armed Services Finance and Banking Committee. So let's talk about that.
It's great to have you with us.
Good to be here.
It was sort of a greatest hits collection last night.
It was.
I thought it was a very good speech. Let's talk about some of the greatest hits that you've been a champion of. First of all, holding Big Pharma accountable.
Yes.
Let's talk about insulin first. It's personal to me. I've got a type 1 diabetic kid. I'm fortunate I can afford to take care of the gouging that Big Pharma is doing. I have so many people who know I have a son like that type 1, that say, Joe, I can't handle this. It's a crisis.
And can't handle means that there are millions of people with diabetes across this country right now who ration their insulin. When I was out in Nevada,
Which, by the way, rationing insulin, I can tell you as a father of a diabetic, a nightmare, and it leads to long-term damage.
Right. Understand, that's right, what rationing means for anybody who's not diabetic. I talked to a man who came up to me and said he was a veteran. So he said he got access to insulin, but his sister and his niece were also diabetic, and they didn't have the money for enough insulin for the whole month. So he said in the last few days of the month, the three of them sit in the same room so they can decide who needs the insulin that's left the most.
This is awful.
This is in America. This is wrong, and especially on insulin. Insulin's been around for over 100 years. It should be available. We should be doing this generically.
The cost has exploded for no reason. Let me ask you something else. And I'm asking you, as you know, I'm a conservative guy. Mm-hmm. I want to know, though, and I think a lot of conservatives would agree with me, that it's a scam that Big Pharma still doesn't have to negotiate with Medicare. Yeah. Why do we keep hearing about that? Why is Big Pharma never forced to negotiate with Medicare like they are with the VA?
I'm sorry, are you asking me if Big Pharma and other giant corporations have enormous political power in Washington?
But who's blocking it now?
It's the quiet blocking. There's never a name on this. There are never fingerprints on this. There's always a mlim, mlim, mlim.
Is it both parties? I heard Kyrsten Sinema is actually blocking this.
We have 50 Democrats right now who are there on insulin. We do not have 50 Democrats who are there across the board on negotiations.
How many do you have on negotiations?
I think we have 49.
49. So then it most likely is Kyrsten Sinema. Another thing, I ask you this question. As a conservative, Joe Biden talked about going after billionaires, going after multinational corporations, not to gut them, not to be a socialist. You've said you're a capitalist. He said he's a capitalist. But how about making them pay the same income tax rate as our teachers and our firefighters and our cops?
You preach to the choir here. So remember what he did say. He said on the corporations, he called out the fact that there are about 50 in the Fortune 500 who collectively made $40 billion in profits on which they paid zero in taxes. So part of what we're pushing forward is a 15% minimum corporate tax.
By the way, Nike, zero in taxes.
There we go.
Amazon over the past several years, zero in taxes.
So what I've been pushing forward is this 15% minimum corporate tax, and that's now part of the feature. This is part of what we're going to push forward. We need to do the same with the billionaires, though. And the problem there is you can't just call it income tax, because these guys have figured out they don't have income. Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, They own huge amounts of stock. They borrow money against the stock and never
And what's preposterous, Mika, is you saw during COVID, you saw their net worths going up hundreds of billions of dollars, and then their lawyers go, but wait a second, they haven't actually cashed in the stock, so they really haven't made any money.
That's reading from your tweet, Putin and corrupt Russian elites must pay a serious price for Russia's invasion of Ukraine. What more can be done to not just Putin, but to oligarchs and to the people that he cares about?
Okay, so now we're really going to get into it. This is where
I've
Putin
been waiting.
Really miscalculated, right? He thought he was going to get this done in just a few days, that the West would be scattered, and ultimately, not only would he be protected, his oligarchs would, and this would all be over before it started. In fact, by having the whole banking system involved, this is now an opportunity to shut down the oligarchs, to shut down Putin, where they have hidden assets all around the world. So it's going to be a painstaking process, but the key word is going to be pain, because it's going to impose a lot of pain on these guys. This is going to be about doing things like seizing yachts, right? This is going to be a fun tow, right?
Yeah.
When you grab the yacht and take it. But that's what's going to happen here.
What's the trigger mechanism to make it happen?
So we've already done this. It's under federal law that we have already declared. And here's the best part. So have other countries. This is not the U.S. by itself going out and trying to Bigfoot. The best part, and this is where I want to give Joe Biden extra credit, he's been spending the last many, many months getting everybody together, sharing credit, offering to let others take the spotlight. So now it's not just the U.S. saying we're imposing sanctions on Russia and then pounding on our allies to come along. Instead, the NATO countries and now South Korea, Australia saying we want to be part of this. We're going to shut down these oligarchs. And keep in mind the importance of this. Those oligarchs are who keep Putin in power. So putting the squeeze on them, making it so they don't get to keep that, their giant penthouses in New York and in London, so that they get to travel all around the world and enjoy their time in Paris. You start squeezing on those guys, and they say to Putin, you've made my life a lot worse than it was. This is a government that is run on corruption. And what we're going to do is start taking away the profits from that corruption.
We will be watching for that. Senator Elizabeth Warren, thank you so much. Adrian Elrod, thank you for being on today. And that does it for us this morning.
Hey, thanks so much for watching our YouTube channel. You can follow up on today's top stories and breaking news, or catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.